Why do so many IT business owners despise selling? What makes it so uncomfortable, so unnatural? And why do prospects seem to be getting more and more distrusting, more difficult to get a hold of? And most importantly, what can you and I do about it? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the MSP Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Gillette. I'm the founder and CEO of the Feel Good MSP, sales development resource for IT companies. So I decided to launch this podcast because in the 6 years that I've been in the channel, I still find that the number one requested topic from MSPs whenever they're reaching out for education or support, it's still growth. Now, there are tons of marketing resources in the channel, which if you're an MSP owner, I'm sure you've seen. Argue there might even be too many marketing resources. Agencies and content providers and fractional CMOs and, telemarketing firms and all these kind of people who are claiming to help you get more leads. And while lead generation is certainly something that is within my purview, I am not a marketing expert. I'm a sales expert. And I actually think that the true epidemic is not a lack of marketing initiatives. It's a lack of overall sales health, process, and infrastructure. And when we can solve the sales problems, a lot of the marketing problems will automatically go away. So that's why I decided I want to start this podcast and just create a constant stream of opportunities for MSP owners who are serious about growing to start taking action and realizing some of their goals. Let's talk about the topic at hand. Why is it so hard to sell managed services, especially if you're an MSP owner, technical background, you've been in business maybe somewhere between 5, 10, maybe even 15 years, and your business has been built largely on word of mouth. You've done a great job. You understand your product. You understand your customers, at least the ones you have. You're excellent at what you do. Your tech stack is dialed in. You've got processes in place. You're charging a reasonable price. And yet, time and time again, unless you're talking to an absolute lay-down referral, which you don't need a whole lot of skill to close those. But unless you're in that conversation, whenever you're talking to a potential customer, communication always breaks down when it gets to the pricing point. We're trying to look for quote unquote pain points. They're trying to look for what's going to cost, what they're going to have to put into this thing. And it always ends up with, why would we pay that much for this? We're a simple shop. We don't want this to be a cost center. And it always breaks down from there. Well, you might argue that your city is oversaturated, that there's too many MSPs now in your marketplace, and so it's been driving the price down. There might be some validity to that. Maybe there isn't. You might be arguing that there are other people who are undercutting you, trying to break into the business and gain market share by charging too little, and that they've warped the marketplace's perception of what managed services is truly worth. Yeah, there might be some validity to that as well. You might also just say, well, people are getting cheaper. Maybe the economy is struggling right now, or when is it not struggling? Maybe the economy is struggling. Maybe these other industries are dying, evolving, changing. Things are moving so fast that nobody wants to pay full price for anything anymore. Yeah, maybe. All of those are great excuses. In my mind, we can either have an excuse or we can have a solution. And I would hate for you to have an excuse that's so good, it's so valid, it's so compelling, that it takes any responsibility off of you to do something about it. So I argue that while some of those things might be true, they might be affecting your business, those are not excuses, those are variables. At the end of the day, there are MSPs right now, at the time of this recording in 2024, who are out there in saturated markets, crushing it, selling at $150 to $250 per seat, taking customers from other MSPs. So the fact that people can do it means you can do it too. But why doesn't it work? I'm going to break this whole thing down into something that I refer to as the adversarial sales complex. This is the epidemic. This mindset, this cultural phenomenon has impacted your entire professional career, both as a salesperson and as a buyer. And simply put, the adversarial sales complex is the core belief that when you are buying or selling, you're in contest with the opposite party. That when you're trying to buy something, you have to defeat the salesperson's ulterior motives in order to get what you need. And as a salesperson, you have to overcome your prospect in order to win the deal. You might be saying, Brian, I would never feel that way. No, I want to help my customers, blah, blah, blah. But unless you have actively carved out a different mindset, this mindset is the one that you are defaulting to because this is the one that plagues our entire sales culture. This isn't just an American issue, by the way. I've coached MSPs all over Europe, all over in Africa, in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Central America, and this is not a US problem. It might be more rampant in Western cultures, but everywhere people are trying to get what's theirs. And it's affected the way that we buy and sell. So I want to introduce you to, first of all, what my core belief is about what sales is and what it can be. And that's going to help us introduce some of these principles we're going to break down further and further into this podcast about what we actually do about the adversarial complex and how you make more sales in the face of it. For starters, if you don't know much about Feel Good MSP, our whole core vision is to ennoble sales culture. My mission statement is ennobling sales culture through empathy and vulnerability. Because I truly believe that sales is an inherently noble profession. If somebody wants to be a salesperson in your company, effectively what that means is A, they're willing to earn less when they do a bad job. I dare you to find me a tier 2 or tier 3 technician that says, hey, I kind of phoned it in this week. You don't have to pay me my full salary. Doesn't exist. There's something very noble about being willing to tether your performance to your compensation. Second, they're willing to grow, not their business, your business. They're willing to go find customers that they might own that relationship, but you own the customer. You'll keep them for years and years, far beyond probably the life of that employee. And I actually believe that sales in its truest form is the altruistic and empathetic act of introducing someone with a need to a solution that they previously didn't know existed. How amazing is that? It's in its simplest form. I'm sales is in my DNA. It's just what I love to do. One of my favorite things is, I'm drinking right now out of this smart mug. Okay. And when I got it as a gift, and it sounded like I'd take it as a gift, but I probably wouldn't buy it for myself. And once I started using it, I realized, this thing is really great. But I didn't realize how great it was until I went on a vacation recently, didn't bring my smart mug, because who brings a smart mug on a vacation? And I was drinking coffee out of a regular cup like a dope, realizing, wow, drinking cold coffee sucks. I've got to get back to my smart mug. And I've sold like 5 of these to people who are in my life. They're hundreds of dollars. They're ridiculously expensive, but it's just such an amazing experience that I've shared that experience with other people who feel the same way. Oh my gosh, I reheat my coffee like 10 times. I never remember where I put it, blah, blah, blah. So selling is simply that. It's the altruistic and empathetic act of introducing somebody with a problem to a solution they didn't know existed. It got weird in the same way that everything gets weird because it was introduced to special interests and flawed people. When salespeople started realizing, or back in the caveman days, I get money if this transaction occurs, which means I want to make more transactions. Well, what if the conversations I'm having maybe aren't perfect fits for transactions? What if I just told them that it was what they wanted, and that way I could get what I want out of this deal? And herein lies the problem, that it can become, in that case, adversarial. When we stop thinking about the sale holistically and we start thinking selfishly about our own personal gain, we can start rationalizing anything that we want. And getting other people to do what we want is not inherently what selling is or ought to be. But in many cases, it's what it's become. So, of course, as salespeople have become increasingly bolder and more brazen and more ridiculous, buyers have had to respond in kind. What does somebody do when you attack them? They defend themselves. So the buyers have built up a defensive process. The buyer's process is all about withholding information. I call it fake, take, and escape. They're about faking you out, taking your information, and then escaping so that they don't have to get committed to anything. And if you're a salesperson, you've been fake, take, and escaped probably this month. And if you're in the channel, you've probably fake, take, and escaped some of these big vendors who call you, 5 times a week. And you've probably told them things that weren't exactly true so that you could pump them for more information and then bolt and then use that information to compare all their competitors. So what do we got to do about it? We have to reintroduce the concept of the win-win-win sale. Okay? If you hate selling, it's probably because I'm preaching to the choir right now. Probably nothing I'm saying is a brand new idea. Maybe you haven't articulated it this way, but I want you to know sales doesn't have to be like this. When you as the salesperson create a non-competitive culture, you build the opportunity for the buyer to respond in kind. They can be more honest, they can be more authentic, they can be more connection focused, and the deal can get done faster, easier, and everybody wins. Okay, so the win-win-win sale, if you will, let's think about it this way. A true sale done the right way means what the seller gets out of the transaction is they get the feeling of being useful. I don't know about you, but to me, that's a huge part of my sense of self-worth is I don't want to be somebody who's not helpful. I want to be as helpful and useful as I can to my fellow man, and I get a lot of personal enjoyment and purpose out of doing just that. They also get the amazing endorphin rush and dopamine hit of introducing somebody to something that solves their problem. We all have a band, a TV show, a movie that we like, that we love, and there's somebody who's in your life who goes, "Oh yeah, I've never seen Caddyshack." And you go, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Hang on, what are you doing tomorrow? I'll clear the schedule. You and I are going to sit down and watch Caddyshack." I don't know why I picked that movie. I'll pick one from mine is School of Rock. If you've never seen School of Rock, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're missing out. Not all 2000s movies age well, but this one still holds up. It's freaking amazing. We've got to sit down and watch School of Rock right now. Fill in the blank. Maybe you have a band, a restaurant, an experience of some kind. Oh, you've got to go to Tulum. You've got to try Hawaii. You've got to go to this conference. That's selling. That is you seeing somebody who could benefit from something, and then you get to be the evangelist who ushers in that good news. Okay? That's what selling can be. And the seller gets a tremendous cathartic experience out of a sale that happens well. By the way, notice I'm not even talking about compensation. I'm just talking about the human benefit. Now, what about the buyer? The buyer in a noble, done well, dare I say, a feel-good sale, they get relief, first and foremost, because the only reason they're transacting is because they have a problem that's causing them pain. So this thing is going to give them a mental relief and an external relief. They get to solve the problem and they get this big weight off their shoulders, this thing that's been gnawing at the back of their mind. They don't have to deal with it anymore. That's a massive, massive value. Huge catharsis experience when you finally find the right, fill in the blank, the right tennis shoe, the right car, the right hat, the right mug. You get the idea. They also get education. So a buyer, especially in our industry where a subject matter expert is required in order for a buyer to even really fully understand what they're getting and why they need it, they leave with more information, helpful information than they had when they started. They actually leave a more valuable professional to themselves, to their business, to their colleagues, to their industry, because they have insights and information that can help them become a better version of their business. And finally, they get a sense of ownership. When a sale is done well, the buyer thinks it was their idea. Even if it was an outbound generated opportunity, if you know how to sell the correct way, the buyer will take ownership over the solution, which means the salesperson has to get out of the way and not try to be the hero. But when the buyer feels ownership, they get education and catharsis out of a sale. I mentioned win-win-win though. That's a win-win. Who's the third? The third win is both businesses collectively. if you're selling in B2B. But even if you're selling a B2C product, if you're selling a lemonade stand, you could still make this argument. But both businesses, they get a formative relationship that empowers them to drive one step closer to their mission. For the sake of IT, if we're selling IT support to an accounting firm, when we do it well, we feel useful, we feel the excitement of introducing something to someone, and we get money. The buyer gets relief, education, sense of ownership. But now our businesses have potentially transformative partnerships with vendors who can launch one another to the next step. Because you as the IT company, you have another customer under your belt, money coming in that's going to free up space in your head, in your org chart, in your budget, in your marketing initiatives to be able to focus more on why you're in business. Because you're not in business to make money. You're in business, you should be in business to achieve something great, and money is the means by which you're going to achieve it. And that accounting firm gets to have one step closer to their mission statement coming to pass because they needed all those issues resolved and they need a tech partner who can drive them into the future. So you're seeing my point. If you think about sales and what it ought to be, doesn't what I've just described sound awesome? Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to do this full time? It's amazing. You get to eat what you kill. You get to make more money when you're more successful. You get held accountable when you're not successful, which means you get to turn inward, be humble, be accountable, be coachable, resolve those issues, work to improve. Then you get to solve people's problems, build formative relationships, and help people achieve their goal. Sales is a noble profession. And as long as we do it the right way, we can, together, you and I, we can unravel this adversarial sales complex and change the way that sales is done and the way that it feels to buy and sell. So this is really my mission as a human being. If you follow me ever, if you follow me online, if you've seen any of my stuff out in the wild, you know that I'm pretty singularly focused in my career. I'm singularly focused on this exact topic. How do we turn sales? How do we return sales to its truest, most human and empathetic form in a way that doesn't just weed out all the bad stuff, but then in place, we have an ineffective sales process. I want to do more business than the guys who are scumming it up. I don't want to do less business, but I can sleep at night. I want to sleep at night and do more business. And that is what I'm all about. So listen, if this topic is stirring something up in you, if you're an MSP owner, director, business development partner, even if you're a marketing person in your company, and you're realizing, look, something what we're doing right now is not working. We're getting fake taken, escaped. Our buyers are lying to us. They tell us that they have these needs, and then they refuse to pay for anything. I'm sending out proposals, and I'm never hearing anything back. Listen, I understand. You are caught in the undertow of a sales complex that was established long before you and I were born. Okay? It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to swim your way out of it. And that's something I'd like to help you do. So I'd love to have you join us for future episodes of this podcast. You're welcome to follow the podcast. You're welcome to rate and review, hit the bell icon, whatever all that kind of crap is, so that you can see everything we do. I have some amazing industry-leading guests lined up to help us break down this conversation in real-world examples. What are sometimes sales words sucking, not working? What were the things that aren't happening, or the things that are making sales become scummier, become more adversarial? What were things that we did to fix it? And then what have the results been? So thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. I can't wait to see you in the next one.